वो कर दे इसको।
टेस्ट।
The mic. Check.
Try again, please. People might take it in. Are you comfortable with that? Okay, good.
That's okay. I can just stand around, walk on further. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi guys, this is Aditya. I'm from Hyderabad. Really pleased to be here amongst all of you. I remember participating in the previous Eximius and it was all online. At least now there's a chance to interact with you guys, meet you in person. So that's really good. I know this is a hybrid and we'll do our best to make the most of it. I really love the energy in IMB. I think it is always a pleasure to be here. I am the global CTO for Servify, which is a leading product lifecycle management company. We are disrupting and changing service experiences and ownership experiences across the world for different products. And I lead technology for them. Today, what I'm going to do is basically help you with some insights that I've had from my own experiences around how you create winning digital experiences for customers, partners, anyone in the ecosystem, just based on some very fundamental things. And hopefully this is an interesting session for you. Let me start by actually taking you into a little bit of what I think consumer experience is, and I'll try and stand because I just feel more comfortable. I feel locked down there, sorry. Maybe just around here. This is good? All right. Okay, so I'm sure all of you've seen what's happened with the payment revolution, right? I think with Paytm jump-starting what we saw right around the beginning of COVID, and just really to a point where today we have become a almost cashless society. I mean, I remember going to various places, even if I take a 200 rupee bill and give it to someone, they just don't have the change for it. They're like, sir, please Google Pay kar dijiye. Right? So that's the kind of stuff that we've actually come to. And that is it's such a change, right? And if you take a look at what UPI has done for us and where we are with UPI, overall, I mean, 5 billion transactions. And in June alone, PhonePe and Google Pay actually had 82% of all UPI transactions. Can you imagine? It's just huge. And now, then just to give you a little more data, there's about $87 billion that has actually been remitted back into India from NRIs and others. And the government is now looking at UPI as a means to replace SWIFT. Fundamentally, I mean, you may have seen the news just a couple of days ago. At least that's the ambition. We'll see where that goes, but definitely all the right ingredients are in place. And when you look at things like that, it's when I think of it, it's amazing the kind of transformation we've seen here. UPI is heralded as one of the biggest innovations. A lot of other countries are adopting it. You're seeing this across the board. So that's one example of what's actually happened. Completely new way of basically doing things, right? The second thing is really change in shopping behavior. For example, if you remember pre-COVID, I mean, we would talk about apparel purchases and things like that online, to now where we are actually doing all of our essentials online, right? And when you think of that, again, I'll just give you an example. In the UK, my cousin actually booked a car online because they couldn't really get some chips. There were chip shortages. They could not go and test drive the car. They could not see anything else. They just did the entire purchase thing online. And a month later, they had the car of their color, of choices and configurations that they wanted. And I mean, yeah, you could do any of those things also quite like that. But that's the kind of simplicity that is brought into our lives. Now, are you the kind of person who will go and buy a car directly online? I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. But at least the opportunities exist, right? One of the other things that we've also seen is the likes of Amazon, Flipkart. All of these companies have really revolutionized buying experiences, right? So you've seen, for example, how you could just select certain things. There's recommendations for you that are similar to what you want to get, maybe add-ons and other things that you also get in your carts and stuff. And all of these have really optimized a lot of processes behind the scenes. Everything from logistics to getting delivery bundled together into one shipment or getting it as in when it's available. And again, when you look at what that's done, it's probably spoilt a lot of us. Today, we are so comfortable sitting where we are and doing what we're doing that even eating out, for example, with the Swiggies and the Zomatos and everything else now has just become a matter of convenience. And you're like, nah, let's just order in. So it's everything coming back to you. So consumer behavior is changing significantly, right? Consumer behavior is getting to a point where there is a desire for on-demand, immediate service, immediate resolution to whatever you want. And it has also trained all of us to actually become very impatient if we don't get that, right? I mean, that's fundamental behavior change that we've all seen probably in ourselves. I know I get impatient. Or if something's not going okay, you go on and tweet about a product or a service or something like that. And these subtle changes have actually made the general consumer much more online aware. The penetration of all of these things now into tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities has also increased. Tier 1's always been there, but I'm just saying, just generally, right? And take a look at what used to be large format retailers, maybe the Chromas, the Reliance Digitals and others, Vijay Sales, etc. Their growth and expansion strategy was based on opening up more stores to increase reach. And that's changed now because they're also looking at this in the post-COVID world. And a big part of their agenda is digital. It's all digital growth, digital experiences, right? And I mean, with Tata Digital coming in and the kind of stuff that they're actually helping drive, for example, with Chroma and a whole bunch of other Tata properties, or you can go on to Tata Click and buy branded products and stuff. I think that's the kind of change that's also happening from a seller standpoint. The need to basically drive up much more engagement and many more platforms, more channels, right? To basically engage with customers and build that long-term value with customers. There's, you've heard of ONDC? Yeah, so you know what the Indian government is also looking at doing, right? Which is really, it's an open network for digital commerce. And the idea there is to really create a platform for all of those who may be on different e-commerce networks to actually come in one place and be able to use that to revolutionize the way e-commerce is done. Again, very ambitious, many different things could be done. It's all something that's still to be seen. But, you look at it and you say, wow, I think take a look at what's happened with Aadhaar, with UPI, with Finance Aggregator Network, with ONDC. And clearly, I think, the country is putting a lot of focus, transformational focus behind things that are actually becoming examples for the world to look at. And hopefully many of you will get chances to go and operate and work on some of these things and really make that difference, over time. But clearly it's a very, very, very fantastic time to really even get an opportunity to look at something like this and contribute to something like this. Okay. Now the trend continues. So if you take a look at offline stores, have any of you seen SBI in Touch stores, which is more a State Bank of India bank with just a digital presence, like an Apple bar where you just got two people sitting there. They tell you how to operate machines. They don't do any other banking other than that. Have you seen the SBI in Touch? No. Okay, so please go and take a look whenever you can. I'm sure you'll find something here. Similarly, I had the opportunity in some of my in my career to actually engage with companies in India who've gone and done some pretty amazing things. So you get these POS machines. These POS machines are typically, they have small speakers. They make that beep sound. All of this, not the newer ones, but the older ones, right? And the one big challenge was, do you actually go and upgrade POS machines across the board, if especially you want to make it NFC compatible and something that you can tap and move with and stuff. There's a company called ToneTag. Again, just companies I've come across, again, no affiliation with any of them, just calling out. They enable sound-based payments. Sound-based payments. You know how they do that? Basically, they've got so your phone's basically got a receiver, and that's authorized on it. The machines actually have ADA compliance, American Disability Act, compliance-related speakers that make small tone sounds. And those are used to actually make a payment. You've also seen the card tap. You've probably gone to maybe a Starbucks, not in India, but let's say outside, where you can use your phone to go and tap the phone and make a payment. You can book your coffee or whatever else earlier and then just go and make that payment. So these are all subtle things that are happening that may seem really insignificant. But behind that, there's enormous amounts of focus and energy. But the idea there is to drive simplification and ease of consumer experience. And I think that's fundamental. And in a lot of things that you're seeing now, I mean, the convenience of being able to use an online platform to go and order food the way you want it within a certain distance from you, or to get a cab where you can actually go and book something that comes at a certain time for you. All of that, you don't really care when you get into a Uber or a Ola. You don't care whether it has insurance. You don't care whether the vehicle has been serviced. You don't care whether the driver's security checks have been done or not. All you care about is convenience. You walk in, you walk out. Just point A to point B. So a lot of things are abstracted from you. And imagine the stuff behind it, right? I mean, there's tons of stuff that actually happens. I'll give you another example. Have you heard of Amazon Go stores? Okay, so I'm not going to belabor that point, but just for the rest of you who may not have actually heard of it, it's a physical store presence. Again, these are onlines now coming physical as well, but physical store presence that is also getting a lot of these digital enhancements. So you can actually walk in to an Amazon Go store, pick up what you want and walk out. You don't take out wallets, you don't take out cards, you don't do anything else. It recognizes you. Of course, there's an initial recognition, right? It needs to know who it is. But there could be 5 people in the store. And you pick a product, it gets added to your account, debited from your account. You put it back, credit it back. So it kind of adjusts real time. There could be multiple people in. They've got enough sensors, cameras, and other things to actually understand who's doing this and how this is being done. And you are able to then look at this. You just pick up stuff, walk out. And it's a very seamless experience. Now, I don't know how broad they can take it, because it also needs to be in a high trust market. There are a whole variety of other things that need to be done around it, but it's revolutionary. It's almost like it's magic. It's almost like it's something out of science fiction, right? I mean, you're just going in, picking up stuff, walking out, no one's stopping you. It's almost as funny as earlier when you would go into a bank with a mask and they would say, stop. Now, if you walk in without a mask, they say, stop, put the mask and come in, right? So, I mean, just really funny things there. But actually, if I can just click to I think this is a clicker, right? Let me see if I'm able to click to the next slide, or if someone can help me with it. Is there a clicker? Okay, I mean, we talked of this. If you don't mind, just go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is something that Arthur C. Clarke said. I mean, think of it, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. How many times would you have thought, I mean, now probably you guys are all so used to it, but ask your parents or ask anyone else from earlier generations if they could think of songs in their pocket. You remember Tim Cook saying 1,000 songs in your pocket? Steve Jobs saying 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? And looking at really what you're able to do today with what is essentially another limb in our bodies now, right? Mobile phones and the kind of stuff that we can do with it. I'll give you an example of Cloud Kitchen. Today, what also happens, and again, not direct relevance to this, but just something that I want to. If you think of an order, a Cloud Kitchen is essentially just a dark kitchen that does not have any storefront, and is only available through online channels like a Swiggy or a Zomato or any of these places, right? So an order comes in from a customer. There's no information about the customer that goes to the kitchen. The kitchen does not know who the person is who's ordered this, what's the address where it's going. They just have an order number. That detail is available with the logistics guy, the person who's coming there to pick up the order. And the platforms actually manage that for you, right? So today, consumers are also becoming increasingly aware of their data privacy. They want to make sure that they have got the right kind of trust that they can put on any platform, right? Or in any such capability. And it's something as subtle as that also kind of becomes essential when you look at creating winning customer experiences. How many times did you go to a place where they're actually taking your information, leaking it out? You'll want to put yourself as far away from that as possible, right? So that becomes another interesting thing as well. So it's subtleties like this that really affect the kind of consumer experiences you can bring about. Do it right, and you got a winning customer experience. Do it wrong, you've got no customer experience at all. Let me take you to the next slide again, if you can. Yeah. So this is just a basic representation of something that I thought I'd just put together and talk about to you. But if you think of it, the way all of these winning experiences are built is on a 4-stack model. I mean, things inside, I'll explain to you, just let that be. But if you think about engagement, the way we engage has changed. In fact, customers want to engage on their own, from their living room, wherever they are, at their convenience, whenever they want to, right? And that's a fundamental change. Of course, mobile first, talked of the limb. There's also examples. I mean, you take education, take healthcare, take a variety of other places where augmented reality, virtual reality are playing a big role. Remote monitoring of something, right? Being able to look at a dangerous site remotely with maybe equipment that you are now able to use to go and take a look at stuff, shale gas drilling or any of these things. There's a lot of application of such technology in those places, but really everyone's focused on the outcome, right? Omni-channel experiences also come in. So basically you talk of everything from mobile to online portals to chats to sound. You now tell Alexa, book me a car or something like that, right? You do things of that sort also. It's again convenience. Behind the scenes again, there's varied levels of technology that actually come into play to get things done. One of the most important things when you talk of engagement is to really have a good feedback loop. What used to be earlier content management has now become digital experience management. You engage with stakeholders across the board, and these stakeholders could be giving you significant insight around what's working, what's not working. You've got to tune yourself to listening to them well. And again, there's tons of technology behind it. I'm not going to go and distill all of that down, but hopefully you get the idea. Engagement is essential. That's a key technology stack. A variety of different building models within that engagement stack. Then let me take you to the next one. Getting real-time information and insights, right? When you talk of anything where you are collecting, let us say, sensor data, that Amazon Go store example, or you're collecting maybe any other utilization data. Let us say, you happen to be in New Delhi and you've got, you want to book a car or something, and you actually see, average waiting time is this much, or you see that it's going to take me, you try 1 or 2 times, you just see that it's going to take you longer, or it tells you that there's surge pricing and things like that. That's all happening real time. It's not happening where someone's sitting and going to process it the next day and come back to you, right? It's happening real time right then and there. Based on that, the company could go and change something. Based on that, you could make a different decision. And it's very easy in the digital world to just switch over your decision to something else because you want convenience. That's what you're looking for. You want immediate solutions. That's what you're looking for. So, a lot of this, again, for the respective companies that are providing those services, those winning experiences, becomes extremely important. Without these real-time insights and without being able to get this and being able to utilize them effectively to go and do what's required, they're gone. They become irrelevant. Right? If you have heard of, let us say, take example of stock trading. You go and you do a certain thing. Let's say you want to buy a particular stock at a certain price and not go over the market limit, etc. So again, there's changes that's happening, and let's say it's very dynamic. You want to go and place an order. It takes you time to go and do that. You miss that chance. I'm just taking that as a very rudimentary example, but hopefully you get the point, right? The ability to get real-time information even to you as a consumer so you can make the right decision becomes a very important thing. So what you see here is increasingly AI is becoming intelligent, though not yet human, but that a lot of things can be done. A lot of things can be figured out. You ask any of your voice assistants today on your phones or any of the ones that you guys may have at home, or while driving a Google Maps or a Apple Maps, and you can actually hear real-time interaction and telling you, turn here, do this, do that. All of that's again real-time based on traffic and stuff. So this becomes again another important aspect. I'm keeping it simple just so that maybe it's easy to relate. And at any point, if any of you have any questions, glad to answer them. But the idea here is insights is another important stack, without which you can't have winning customer experiences. The third layer is integrations, and these integrations now, the time to market, companies, startups you've seen want to get something done. Do you think they really have the time and patience to go and wait for a long time to go and build out an entire platform and get things done? No, they will use whatever is available to their convenience so that they can focus on whatever is their USP, right? So again, you use APIs. Today you see people using Aadhaar, GST, all of these things, right? These are all readily available APIs in the industry. So thinking about how you can actually, this entire API economy where you can actually use these different services at your beck and call for what you want to do and really still build an overall value proposition is, again, a phenomenal thing. And the fact that we are now able to go and do it, you don't have to have a complex integration between companies to go and do certain things because everyone's working off of fixed standards largely. There may still be nuances, but largely. And you end up using that integration stack to be able to bring these things together to provide that holistic service. And finally, all of this is on a bedrock of trust. Any service that you're actually getting today needs to know who you are, which is what you see there as the auth-n or authentication. It needs to know what you can do with the service that you're actually using, which is authorization. Fraud management is an essential aspect, especially when you're talking of any payment-related transactions, for example, or any of those kinds of things. And finally, platform reliability. Can you imagine your food ordering app goes down? And let's say you just made plans with all of your friends for a party and you want to order food and you just can't order it. Would that irritate you or not? And it's something simple. You don't even think of it. You just don't even think of it, right? So it's these capabilities from a technology stack standpoint. I just try to keep it fairly simple. Idea here is really, if you take a look at the engagement layer, which is where you're actually providing your best value to the customer. And you're using, of course, core systems to look at insights and stuff like that. You're building up a lot of the backend layer to get things done. Again, all the 3 items below are really nothing but just the foundational backend for you to be able to, engage customers really well. So to me, I think it's this stack that really drives the overall customer experience. Now, let me tell you a little about Servify. If you can just go to the next slide, please. So this is the company that I represent here. I mean, here to just tell you a little about. What we do is we essentially provide white label protection plans on smart devices, on appliances, and things like that. And we've really got a product lifecycle management platform. Let me give you an example. I'll come back to this. Right? Imagine you got a TV or a washing machine at home that goes bad. Today, what do you typically do? Or what does the average person typically do? They pick up the phone or they pick up an app, maybe urban company, and just go and call a technician to come in, take a look at things, because you are going to that app or that platform because of trust. That's the first thing, right? You're going there because of trust. You go there, you call someone who you believe is an expert at being able to solve what you need. Person comes at a time that is predefined through the platform, takes a look at the appliance, identifies that there's an issue, tells you that they'll have to go back and place an order for some spare part with the OEM, and asks you for some advance. You willingly give it, because again, underlying thing is trust. The person's actually coming through this platform. You willingly give it. The person then goes out, says, sir, I'll come back in about 2 weeks. And you kind of just accept it. That it's going to take you that much time. You just accept it. You don't question it. You don't look at it. Person brings the spare parts. You assume that the parts are genuine. You assume that you've got the right parts and there's going to be no need to change anything. Right? You look at all of that. The person comes in, replaces the stuff, takes the old parts, tells you, would you like to keep this, or are you okay if I dispose it? The reality is maybe those parts are still okay. They can be reused elsewhere. They just worn a little bit, but largely still okay. Now you got this person who's come in, done this, your work got done, but you are left with no surety that these are genuine parts. Sometimes you get a bill, sometimes you don't. You got no visibility into the fact that the OEM is even aware of your issue or not. And you got no transparency throughout this entire process. And you're not able to do anything else except depend on this one person. Imagine, what would it be like if you're able to directly, if the OEM knows, oh, by the way, there's this washing machine, it's old or some part is wrong, is able to basically come in, make sure that you get the right solution right there, genuine parts, full transparency into what's happening, whether the parts have been ordered, when do they arrive, when does your equipment or appliance get ready if they've taken it away, who's the field engineer who's going to come and visit you, at what time, schedule, all of that. All of that's something that we've enabled through our platform. Just to give you an example. What we've done is we've taken a very fragmented, just like the buying experience we were talking of, we've taken the very fragmented post-buying experience, and we've integrated all of that into a winning digital experience for our consumers, something that drives customer delight, essentially, right? And through this, we've integrated with OEMs, who are the best people who know how to service your product, by the way, because they're the ones who manufactured it. They're the best people, right? So we got these OEMs. We've got a promise of genuine parts, because this is an OEM-backed warranty program, for example. It integrates logistics providers, insurers, payment gateways, part suppliers, everyone else. Again, so that integrated ecosystem is, again, an important bedrock of really what we've been able to build to drive that elevated experience that consumers have come to expect from this. And essentially, for us, you remember the tech stack that we talked of? It's incumbent on us, and you may have seen this, right? We've got this, I think there's another slide somewhere else where we maintain a 99.5% uptime of our platform, which means we can't afford to have the platform go down because it affects people all across, right? So that's the kind of stuff that you end up looking at. Any of these platforms that we're just talking about, which actually drive these experiences, have to have fundamental platform reliability. They have to have the right integration that actually brings things together. They have to have critical insights that actually give you the significance and the decision-making capability that you need when you need it, at the right time, the right place. And finally, that's what really enables you to have that engagement that we're talking about. I'll just like to almost, bring this to conclusion from my perspective, and then I can open up to any questions if you've got the time. Basically, if you work back from a customer standpoint and think about it more in context of what customers want, and you start from there, you basically build up. I mean, this entire concept of voice of customer, you've heard of this? So in today's ecosystem, it's not just voice of customer, it's voice of stakeholder. It's everyone in the ecosystem. Partners who are coming together to basically build that winning experience. Customer themselves, right? Any of these. So it's very important for you to have the right insights that you can actually pull in and make sure that you're getting that real-time feedback so you're able to continuously evolve and make things better and better and better, right? And that's how you will see most companies today scale. They want to first and foremost go out in the market with an MVP. They want to get feedback. And based on that feedback, they want to go and change. So that becomes a very important element. So make sure that whatever you're doing, maybe for a program, maybe for a project, maybe for a company that you're starting, right? You want to make sure that you build the right feedback loop and you give it the right credibility that it needs. That's extremely essential. The second thing I'll call out is, and there's a fantastic quote, I'll just read it out for you. Einstein mentioned, any intelligent fool can make things bigger and more complex. It takes courage and responsibility to use technologies to make things simple. And it's so true, because sometimes we get swayed by technology and what's available, that we stop focusing on the actual problem and we start focusing on what the technology can do. What can I do with this? So this is so cool. I'll get this, I'll get that. No, none of that matters. What you need is value innovation. If you don't get value in front of the customer, nothing stands. You could have the best technology, you could have, all the right intention, but it'll come to a naught. It'll really not do anything for you if you don't deliver value. There's another interesting thing that Dean Kamen, inventor of Segway. You remember? You've heard of Segway? What he said was, every once in a while, a new technology, an old problem, and a big idea turns into innovation. Old technology, new problem, big idea. Idea there is, don't get swayed by the latest, sexiest technology. No, that's not the point. Focus on what is the problem you're trying to solve. If you're clear about that, you will find the solution with the tools that you have available to you. And that's where a lot of your mindset lies, right? I mean, if you're starting up a company or anything like that, identifying the problem that actually will give you the chance to drive value is really what will make it click and what will make it valuable. The third thing I would basically call out is invest in your customers. Basically have like maybe an engagement with, maybe budgets that focus on customer engagement, that give you the ability to probably engage them as a council. Maybe, you try out some lighthouse projects with them, you try out certain things and get the right insights from them that will actually help you evolve quickly. You start in with friendlies. People will actually give you feedback in a very constructive manner. Take that, build up on that, and then basically work towards going and driving out what would be extremely valuable. Again, it builds up over time. Nothing happens overnight. Right. So with that said, I want to bring my presentation to conclusion. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you have. I hope that was meaningful for you. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, from the Indian context, design for repairability or serviceability, it seems to be quite bad. And actually, over the years, we seem to have been progressively degrading. Whereas now, in the European Union, they're actually putting a high onus on repairability. And because when you said about the OEM thing, I've had a personal experience where I finally called in a non-OEM technician because he came and he rewound the motor. The OEM, they just wanted to swap the motor. So, just some perspective in this regard.
No, absolutely. I think that is fantastic. In fact, there is a right to repair. European Union has actually started that, and I think you're seeing that now happen everywhere. Where, let me give you an example. Apple is now starting to provide a right to repair capability where a consumer can actually go and take the kit, should they choose to, and use that to repair their own product too. So, I hear you. The general tendency has been one where you want to replace Or, I mean, that's where you said, okay, no, just put this out, bring in a new motor, for example, or something like that. Or you could actually look at maybe a refund and say, hey, you go ahead and buy something new. Or repair. Now, repairability, it's really dependent on the availability of spare parts and everything else. And it's really what the OEM also sets up as a standard. In general, most OEMs are very aware now that they have to maintain spare part stock for a while. So, for example, if you take a look at cars, let's say Ford has chosen to go out of India, right? They have obligations to maintain spare parts for a certain number of years. I think 7-8 years, if I'm right, something like that, in the country, even if they are not present for that duration of time, so that products that were once sold can be repaired. So I think the maturity is coming in overall. The idea here is that you look at an entire ecosystem, and the ecosystem has to come together to be able to give you what you need in order to service something. Now, if you've got one of those old wall tube radios, for example, antique piece, how many people around can repair it? I am from Hyderabad, and I found one guy who does. So yes, you will always find those nuances, but the example you're giving around the motor and things like that, I think there are still plenty of opportunities to do it. Generally, it's a decision from an OEM standpoint in terms of what they are willing to replace, willing to repair versus replace. So, but yeah, I think that's a very informed consumer today wants to be able to have the right to repair as well, even as a consumer. So it is clearly changing. Yes. What do you mean by derivatives? Yeah. Well, we use our platform to basically power white label protection plans, for example. So today, if you were to take a look at what phone do you have? OnePlus Care, you've heard of it? MI Protect, you've heard of it? Samsung Care, you've heard of it? Those are the kind of programs that we actually build for the OEMs. So it's an OEM named program. In what in the service context, for example? Yeah, I think there are a lot of companies who already do that. But the idea here is when you think about the ability to understand the customer, who the customer is, ability to basically service them. So for example, if you are in the Apple ecosystem, I'll just take that as an example. You're identified with an Apple ID. Now, Apple's also serialized parts of their products. So if there's a serial number for the unit, there's also a serial number for the spare parts. If any of those go out of whack, your warranty coverage and all just terminates. So it depends on really what kind of product you're talking about. It depends on what kind of maybe service condition you have, what you need to do, and depending on what you want to do, you could go and get certain things. Now, you could choose, for example, screen break. Screen is a fairly expensive proposition. Screen breaks on the phone. You could choose to go and put maybe a duplicate screen, not a real screen. But then you will suffer with certain other problems. I've personally experienced myself having done that, where I've actually had a lot of luminosity. Basically, the light luminance that's actually coming in on the screen, in some areas was much, much brighter, and it was drawing significant current. It created swelling of the battery. Things went bad. I decided I'm okay to pay an extra amount the next time around and get the comfort that I have got something that is OEM backed. So it depends on really what you're looking at. I hope that answered your question, please. Yeah. See, we do. So it's when we say white label, it's essentially something that we are supporting for some of the brands that we work with, right? We are actually taking away the entire hassle for them to worry about the post-purchase experience. We are actually managing all of that for them. And they're managing that through technology. So we are already doing that for multiple brands. You can call that an aggregator of sorts. I mean, essentially, it's not aggregation per se, but it's really the fact that we are able to do this for multiple brands using well-defined standard processes and practices that we believe apply and help in most of these scenarios for everyone. So, yeah. Everything from, let's say, a claim comes in and claim needs to be processed. Yeah, we do that too. Yes, we manage it for them. Yes. I mean, clearly you want, so for example, even mobile banking, how many times have you gone physically into a bank? Hardly, right? Unless there's a, I don't know, some real major need and you are not able to cater to it through a mobile app, right? So I think clearly consumer expectations are changing and changing drastically. I still have elderly people in the family who will still want to go into a bank and get their passbook updated by someone, right? I mean, you still have that kind of, because that's what they know. You're seeing a very different experience. The moment you experience it in one place, or let's say you've taken a holiday using Airbnb and you see that you can actually go and do a lot of this thing yourself, your expectations change. Next time you don't want to go in through maybe a travel agent, you just want to just go and construct up your own holiday. So it could be any of these kinds of things. So from our standpoint also, when we look at it, we believe that consumers want the flexibility of convenience whenever they want it for whatever products they own. And the fact that, they will only be delighted more and more if we are able to go and give them critical insights around things that may need to happen. Let us say I'm able to understand that your TV, and let us say it's a smart TV, and I've got diagnostics coming in from it. I'm able to understand that there is potential of failure in somewhere. And I proactively come and notify you. And I solve that for you. Would you not be delighted? So it's things like that. Again, very simple example, but hopefully you get the idea that on mobile devices, it's there. Yeah, mobile devices is already there. Now, what does it take to go and put it across multiple appliances and stuff? Yeah, I mean, you've seen airplanes actually have that where they transmit certain signals and people look at what's happening and understand what this telemetry is telling them, what is working, what's not working and stuff, and interject so that they're able to go and course correct. But it depends on it being available from a commercial standpoint. So you've got to look at really what's feasible. Yeah, but we do. So for example, in our case, we are able to remotely diagnose a mobile device. We are able to do a physical condition evaluation using AI, where, I mean, otherwise someone's taking a look at it and saying, okay, yeah, this looks okay. We can do that through AI today. Yeah, we do it. Yes. We are not. So the interesting thing for us from a USP standpoint is we are actually completely plugged into the OEM ecosystem. We are not cannibalizing their revenue. We are in fact the ones who are helping them build up revenue streams. What was otherwise seen from a service standpoint as a liability is now a revenue stream, because you've got the ability to get warranty, for example. And then managing all of that for a lot of the OEMs is not a straightforward thing. I mean, someone like an Apple is a gold star because it's a North Star because they've actually gone and built things up from scratch where they're able to manage that entire stack extremely well. Many others are not, but they want to get there. We have the ability to help them get there. To the extent we can, we do. Yeah. Of course. So we are experimenting with subscription models also. We do that in some places, but largely it is, let us say you've taken a warranty on a mobile phone. I'm just using mobile phone as an example, but this applies to a laptop, a smart tablet, or maybe TVs or sporting equipment, any of these things. What ends up happening is there's generally a warranty coverage or promise for a duration of time. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on whatever you've got. So you are essentially buying that assurance for that duration of time. Anything happens, you get the service. We do believe from an evolution standpoint that customers will want the ability to have this on subscriptions. For example, I think even cars, for example, maybe what's the car that starts with an N? Nissan. I think Nissan's already providing that, right? I mean, you can own a car on a subscription model. I'm talking that example. You can actually go and do that today. So it's clearly that the entire product as a service capability has been experimented on by several companies, several OEMs. And it is something that I think the entire ecosystem also has to mature to accept it. Because what that means is I'm using maybe phone A today. I want to switch 6 months to phone B. I should have the ability to do it. Yeah, I mean, it's not the same cost as actually owning this and having a standard payment plan, but it's my convenience and I'm willing to do it. You have those opportunities, or at least we're getting to a point where you have those opportunities much more easily. Sure. Yes. No, on the contrary, when you're working with OEMs, they expect that you will give them trust, right? Because otherwise, if we don't do that, then we tarnish their reputation, which can be mind-boggling for us, right? So, no, we believe that we are doing this for customers. We want to give customers delightful experiences completely backed by trust, right? So, sorry. And to me, it's something that we very consciously believe in. Everything from, again, there are design principles, least privilege access. Only those who need access to certain things can get them for the purposes of what they want to do or what they need to do. It could be based on maintaining customer privacy and not necessarily showing that to anyone and everyone. So there's a variety of different things that typically go into this thing. And again, there's fraud elements. In a country like ours, for example, there's plenty of fraud. So having that fraud control layer to make sure that it doesn't negate the value proposition from our business model is also essential. So all of that basically ends up building trust. Now imagine you're a genuine customer, you're on the platform, you've submitted a claim, I've already authorized everything, I've diagnosed your device and everything else right way before, so I know that you're coming in and asking for a claim, you've never had any claim history before. Do you really think that I should be asking you to give me proof of purchase and this and that? No, I want to be able to auto approve your claim. But if the ecosystem is fraught with, let us say I've got 100 people on the platform, if there are 5 negative players, should I really impose the restrictions on 95% who are not? No. So we build it up in a manner that we try and focus more attention to catch those 5 or to prevent those 5 from getting onboarded on the platform so that we are able to maintain that high quality of experience for the 95%. That's the idea. Yeah. Yes. How are we doing on time? I don't know if you can tell me.
I think we can take 1 or 2 more questions.
Sure. Yeah, please. Good evening. So imagine this. Let's take that same example where you've got, let's say, a mobile device that's gone bad. Screen is manufactured by a different supplier for the OEM. Another spare part is manufactured by another supplier for the OEM. But the OEM knows what's authorized, what's good, what's right, what's genuine spare part based on their specs. Now, the OEM is already providing this service. They've already got their own service centers. We're not going in, for example, replacing them or anything like that. But we integrate all of them in. We integrate the service network. We integrate logistics providers. We integrate payment gateways. We integrate insurers. We integrate, part suppliers, all of these into our ecosystem. So we are able to basically bring back that same quality of experience. I mean, at least the genuine experience that the OEM promises, but we are able to make that happen across the board. So we are essentially carrying the OEM's benchmark forward, right? We are using their network. We are just opening up more channels to do so. We are making sure that this is happening with transparency to the end consumer. Maybe OEM systems may not be giving end consumers that visibility, that transparency. We are bringing that in as an example. Yeah. I hope that gives you answer to your question. Or if it does not, I'm glad to answer more. We are B2B. We are B2B2C. So we go in through the OEM. Basically, we are a B2B2C company. The consumers are the OEM's consumers. So the OEMs actually have their own network and scale that they manage so that they're able to provide and cater to whatever market requirements are there. we basically help make sure all of that's digitally integrated and fully available to service the needs of the network and the market. So we don't go and set up our own service centers, if that's the question you're asking. No, we don't have our own service centers, for example. But we largely what we do is we make sure that, for example, if you're using a white label app, you could actually go in and request service or set up a service complaint at the nearest service store, which will actually be set up, and you'll be able to go and select which service store you want to be able to go to, service location you want to go to. So, and that service location happens to be an MI service location, right? It will not be our service location, if that's what you're asking. So I can't increase their scale if they don't have that ability to scale. Now, they may partner with a third party who may become an authorized service provider. And if they are available, then we'll basically make them also available to an end consumer to be able to go and select and pick. There are competitors from different angles. I'll not name them per se, but basically, see, we believe, for example, and I'll just give you one example, right? You could get a third-party insurance cover for a particular product, or you could get an OEM branded cover. When you're out in the market and you bought, let's say, a Samsung phone, would you rather get a third-party warranty on it or a Samsung Care? You pick up a Samsung Care. That's what we associate ourselves with. We are actually with the brand. We believe it's important to really continue to provide that brand experience because no one knows your product as well as the brand does. So that's what we basically propagate. That's what we help the brand with as well. Sure.
Okay. I think in the interest of time, we'll close the floor for questions for now.
Thank you.
On behalf of IIM Bangalore and the Eximius team, I would like to extend my gratitude towards Mr. Mony. I'm sure that the ideas and the concepts that you have shared right now will stay with the participants of this meeting for a long time, and it will help them in their own endeavors in creating a winning consumer experience.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for hosting me.
I would now like to invite Ankita, the OCC of Eximius team, to extend the memento of gratitude to Mr. Mony. All right, thank you so much, sir. Okay, I would like to inform everybody that there are Startup Expo stores set up in the L Square, so please do visit them when you get time. It's an auditorium. Give me a second, I'll have to check there. Is it? Let me just confirm that for you, 1 second.
It's here, maybe.
Yes, I will. The next session is here or in auditorium? Yeah, this is N0. Right. It says next session is at Audi 3 o'clock. Yes, tell me. Wait. Yes. 1 second, I'll get back to you. On the speaker, I think it says auditorium. See.
We changed it.
Okay, 3 to 4. And it's the,
3-panel discussion, right?
yes,
Yeah, it's
achieving procurement.
It's here. It's here only, right? The
Yeah.
keynote.
It is here, it's here. It's a 3-panel discussion.
No, actually here it says the keynote speaker, right? Dare to Startup, Ankit Agarwal. This one, keynote.
Right, this is the session that is.
Is there one more?
Yeah, okay. Let's get out.
Hold up.
Should I say for 5 minutes more?
Just go.
Let's get the whole thing.
If they needed, then
You want one more?
No, it's okay, it's okay. Tell me it's okay.
if they want, we can.
So let's get them in.
That way, no, they won't.
What do you think?
Just keep it like this. Okay, I'll go get. No worries, I'll go get one more.
How far?
Naughty.
You be able to get it from the account? Okay, go.
procurement thing is changed. Scaling the startup is going to be
I have a hard time finding. That's what it said. I think it's that's right. Now we can do that thing is you have to move on. That's also like a 2 weeks. I like to move on. We can have European teams come up. So first time like this. I mean, there is a child place. There are the guys from Netherlands. There. It's a mind, right? You're meeting more people. Correct. And every day you meet people, right? It's a also, I don't think that's the much more people. There's some people are now get on like sexual happen. That is also very like actually China is the Eastern city that's got about. So it is they have a zero. Supply chain. That's what happened. So 1 week the factories supplied in China, what happened is like last week there is all factories were I don't think it works. Still have friends, colleagues. Again, monitor. One of the guys asking me when we chat, he has been thing that we used a lot of. What's that you out of startup? It's like 1 hour only. And I'll let you know what experience what. So you will talk at this point. Architects, they only let 1 person work. It works time. Then the after that
Very good. After good. Elaborate. Yawning. A drain. Alan drink.
Great. Thanks, Professor. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here with you all today. I'll start with one thing. If you ever ran into any problem with any of your device or anything, you typically call the 1-800 number, and all you hear is, "Dear customer, you are very important to us. Please wait on the queue," and then you keep waiting endlessly, right? And essentially, that's what is wrong with customer service. That's exactly what is wrong with customer service. You never know if it's going to take you 1 minute, 2 minutes, 20 minutes to get to the phone. Even if you get to somebody on the phone, you don't know whether they will know anything about you. You keep telling them, you call them today, 3 days later, and stuff goes on. You all have probably some experience of it. All of us have been there. And fundamentally, we thought we as consumers, we deserve something better than this. And that's how Cervify was born, actually, to fix this problem per se. Okay. And then we went on to build what we call as the product lifecycle management software, where my friend Aditya also spoke in the previous session, where we build service management capabilities where customers can call in and we do an omnichannel experience. Anyone who calls in, forever we remember all their details. They never have to talk to us about their products or what they want to do. All they have to tell is their problem, and then we will start solving their problems. That was one part of it. Then you look at a little bit of adjacencies that, okay, I did one thing how do you create a business? You had one idea, one small idea. You started with that one small idea, and then you realize, hey, this alone is not enough to create a business out of it. It's good to solve one problem, right? Then you start looking at adjacencies, and then we realized, oh, by the way, devices are becoming bigger, more electronics, more sensors, bigger screens, basically, and then they're more expensive. They break more often. If they break more often, then it takes a lot of money to repair them, and therefore that's how we ventured into product protection business, where we started taking what insurance companies were doing at one point of time. We started saying, hey, we will solve it through a more customer-centric approach and push insurance companies towards the end of the value chain, where they just do the risk underwriting and we take care of the customer experience part. Then you start realizing, as you go deeper and deeper into it, you start realizing, hey, can we do something else? And then you figure out, oh, by the way, there is a second life, there is a third life to a device. You just don't use iPhone for 2 years. You want to trade in your iPhone or whatever that device you have for a newer device. Can we do a trade-in? Can we do end of life? Can we do something else with this, right? So then we started getting into that kind of a business area. That's another adjacency. And when you start looking at that kind of stuff, then you realize, what else can we do, actually? Then you start realizing, while the devices and all these products are becoming more and more expensive, almost 40 to 50% of the products are sold via somehow affordability offers, EMIs, buy now, pay later, whatever you call otherwise. And then you realize, hey, there is an opportunity to disrupt or improve customer experience in that area as well. So you start with one problem at a time, but you always keep evaluating what's next. And that's how the journey of Servify has been. And that's how we have created an organization right now that what we are doing to continuously keep solving the problems that our customers may have. So that's our experience. And then in the company side, at the team side, what we have done is, and Srivatsa, who is our founder actually, what he has done is he has made everyone a partner in the company. So we are all co-owners. And therefore what happens is everybody is an entrepreneur, at least in the company also. So that's the spirit with how we are taking this up. We are a startup. We got to create more entrepreneurs in the company. Everybody thinks like one. Everybody has ownership of it. And that's how we actually make this or internalize the customer experience in everybody within the organization. So that's our experience.
Thanks, Himanshu. That was pretty enlightening. A few things that you mentioned, but I really liked. We'll talk about it later. So from my point of view, I guess what drove me into entrepreneurship was, firstly, I really found it hard to work for someone else. Okay, that's step one that pushed me there. But apart from that, I do believe that, I always wanted to create something impactful and at scale. And because I want to do that, I was always on the lookout for opportunities that provided that kind of, problem statement and all of that. And one thing I was deeply passionate about was trade and commerce. And one of the things that was going in my favor was like my family was also in from a business background, and it was in such a background, and I was so I did my bachelor's in industrial engineering, and then I worked as a supply chain consultant, which basically then gave me a full bird's eye view over how various supply chains worked across industries, right? And that's where some of the parallels that I saw, especially when I used to come down in the summer for my summer internships with my dad's company and all of that, the challenges that some SMBs like us faced in India, and how it could have been overcome with, say, similar business models of things that I worked with. Like in the US, there was Grainger, which is like a huge MRO player. And my family business was in, like, say, similar industrial sector. We were dealing with industrial goods and hardware and stuff like that. So from there on, it got me thinking, and I started thinking and talking to my brother and co-founder as well. And from there, we basically went ahead to like see how the Indian industry can be like, it's not the idea of retrofitting something that you've seen somewhere and copy paste it over here. But then the idea was, say something was there, and that's a developed country. And in India, the B2B domain was entirely, this is back in 2015 or something. So there were no Udans of the world. Udan started in 2016, 2017, that too for the trade basis. Here we were trying to solve the issue for manufacturing and their procurement and the problems that come with scale over there. So that's how Shake Deal was formed. And I guess the journey has been pretty enlightening, lots of ups and downs. One of the things that I think we value a lot, I mean, I personally value a lot, and I feel is very important in entrepreneurship is having, you need to be very resilient and persistent in what you have. If it's a conviction, you need to take it like towards all the way. And that's one of the things that helps when things are not all going your way. And yeah, I guess there was no other part of the question, right? So yeah, so this was my story of how we came about entrepreneurship. And yeah, I think.
Hey, thanks Akshay, and thanks Himanshu. I think lovely story is quite inspirational for me as well. I'm sure for others as well. My story is relatively simpler. I think I did my undergrad in NIT Surathkal, and I fortunately end up meeting a lot of entrepreneurs. Like there was Taxi for Sure, there was Practo, and these were the seniors who were like 5 years, 6 years, 8 years ahead of me. And all of them, while I was still in college, had built businesses of decent size from scratch, like 1 year, 2 year out of college. So I actually related a lot more with those stories. And I think that is happening with India at scale right now, right? These stories are super relatable, right? Like story of Ambani is not relatable, but these stories are relatable. I think that is what inspired me to kind of at some point take the plunge and start a business. How it actually started is like this simple observations, like how Himanshu said, sometimes end up into business opportunities. The same kind of happened with me as well. I moved to Bangalore in 2015, and once in a while I used to go to supermarkets just to shop, right? Like all of us have been there. But if you this is 2015, 2016, if you go to a big bazaar, then on a Saturday or on a Sunday, you will see like massive queues. The whole store is a chaos, right? You'll see 10 people, you'll have to wait for 25 minutes, 30 minutes to just get your items filled. I think that kept on happening, and like grocery is a thing that you shop every week, twice in a month and so on, right? So that kept happening, which kind of triggered me to dive deep and understand what really is going wrong here, right? Like why industry retail is like the backbone of GDP, right? Employs 10% of our masses, contributes 14% to GDP. It's an industry of this size. Why is it so broken from a customer experience standpoint? So I kind of applied that lens and then validated that lens with quite a few people, which resulted in a opportunity that we kind of built around self-checkouts. So we launched a product which was basically a self-checkout app for customers. We kind of scaled it to top 4-5 retail brands in India, understood certain fundamental problems with it, which were actually groundbreaking and didn't let us scale further, pivoted the business into, since we were already in the retail industry, right? The modern retail was a customer, the organized retail per se. Since we are already in the industry working with them, we understood that there are so many more inherent problems which could be solved. Then we pivoted to a point of sale business, which we kind of built and scaled over the last couple of 3-4 years. And just around the time of COVID, we sold it to Amazon. That's the story so far.
Thank you so much. Yeah. That's something I feel. Actually, we are a B2B2C company. So we mostly work with brands, OEMs, and then customers are actually acquired by the OEMs or brands. So in our case, while we were building our product, we realized is that we have to show what the experience is today and what the experience could be with these OEMs, because we did not have a direct customer connection first up. Right? So from our perspective, the gap was there already. We were realizing, we were feeling it every day. But then what we had to do was sell this to OEMs, because that was the plan and the strategy that we had to develop it into a business. So the first one was OnePlus for us back in 2016, 15, 16 timeframe. And then one thing obviously led to another thing, but the cracking the first one, understanding, getting deep, executing. So one is an idea, one is you convince the customer, the first one, to take on to your service, but then it comes all to execution. You have to have that execution excellence, because no second customer is coming unless the first one is exceptionally happy with you. And especially in the B2B business, the type of ours, the news goes around very, very quickly. It travels at the speed of light, what you did from a customer experience perspective. So that was quite a bit of challenging. But once we started getting a hang of the first customer and consumers, then it was a case of actually building on top of it continuously. Because one is you can try to solve the problem yourselves and you will only go this far. If you bring others into your ecosystem, you get a little more further. And the more people you join into your ecosystem, then you go much, much, much further. So that was what we pivoted on, that, hey, we will not try to solve this problem alone. We will try to make this an ecosystem play. So we just did not do the business ourselves. We started integrating when we realized, because we are into the service business, we started realizing that, okay, there is an OEM, there is a customer, but then there are all these repair partners. So what about them? These are small mom and pop shops. Can we integrate them into our ecosystems? Once we integrated them, then the next question was, can we integrate logistics providers? Can we integrate payment providers? Can we integrate all others? The entire value chain. And as you start building more and more of the ecosystem has to win for us to make this into a great business. And that's what we are. We are an ecosystem play today. And that's how we think the evolution, for us at least, has been fairly successful. That's what I can talk about.
Thanks, Himanshu. That was, again, pretty enlightening. So from Shake Deal's perspective, so when we started off, we were just pretty young, I guess, had like a couple of years of experience under our belt. Very passionate about the problem statement that we were solving, which takes you a certain amount of distance, but doesn't solve all your problems, or it doesn't take care of everything. So, but then in business, the first things you go after are the lowest hanging fruits, which is basically friends and family, or people that within your, say, 1 degree of separation, where you can like try and get a customer. That's what we did. But what was more important for us, because we were a marketplace per se, was to actually build the supply side. Because when you actually open it up to your customers, you don't want it to be a negative experience, because as a marketplace, you want to be one stop. And if you're a one stop and you don't have, say, a certain selection of catalog, then it can dissuade the customer from, revisiting you the next time around. So we spent a good amount of time, almost 6 months, just creating the supply side of it. And that means we had a lot of category depth and, spent a lot of time around that. And that created the base for, a good ecosystem, like he was mentioning. So we created a platform that had depth and breadth, so that when a customer that you're actually targeting comes in for their entire indirect, categories of spend, they see everything out there and they don't have to go anywhere else. So it truly becomes like a one stop. So that was our strategy, to build the supply side first. And then for the customers, like I mentioned earlier, we went around to friends and families, the people that we knew, to be able to pitch to them. And from there on, like Himanshu also mentioned, in the B2B domain, things move at the speed of light, especially like word of mouth and stuff like that. And people are always connected in the industry. So I'll just give you an example, like somebody from Vedanta who's been working with us while he was at Vedanta, switched over to Saint Gobain, has now reintroduced us into that ecosystem. So that kind of thing always happens in this industry. So in the B2B space, it's very important to have you mentioned something about being able to execute really well. You can acquire a client, but after that, in the B2B domain, it's really being able to execute, because that's what keeps it. It leads to the retention and then the repeat business, that stuff. So for us, those are the things that we concentrated on once we realized. Obviously, first time entrepreneurs, I would say, are still foolish. We kind of joke about it, but then a lot of things that happen comes with time. But once you get it, the sooner you start introducing these best practices into your play, I think the longer you will be able to go. And I think that's how we just organically went about it.
I think very similar stories with both of you. We were also a B2B2C business. So I think the later part, both of you kind of clarified and covered in depth. We'll just cover the starting piece, which is actually it's back. Yeah. I mean, how do you principally acquire a customer, right? We were probably a 5-people team when we acquired our first customer, which was Big Bazaar, which was like a 12,000 crore company. Then we were still like 15 people when we acquired Shop & Stop, which was an 8,000 crore company. So it just sounds very overwhelming, right? Prima facie, that why would they agree to work with a team which is like 5 people, right? That's like nothing for a scale of that business. But when you're a business of that size, the biggest threat for you is disruption. And disruption more often comes from small, newer businesses which are sprouts of nothing, right? They came out of nowhere and created value. So I think that kind of fear exists with these large players. And it might sound very counterintuitive, but it is true that like cold calling, simple things like that works very well. That's how we acquired 2 of our first customers. None of us was from retail background. We were like techies, knew nothing about how retail works, how stores work. Cold calling, stuff like LinkedIn messaging, all of that works. Like you may think it doesn't, conversion rates are bad, but it ends up, if you're persistent like Akshay,